The concept of niching down and finding your target audience is putting way too much emphasis on them as an audience when the audience comes to the person. Like, you have to figure it out. You have to experiment and explore and really understand this yourself before you find your audience. Well, welcome to my humble abode. We are here today to talk about art and creativity. It is so difficult to be a creative person sometimes in life because everyone's kind of yelling at you, do it now, do it more, do it better, you know? This is your safe space to say, you know what? I'm just chilling. This is the chill place. What is behind me? So today I wanted to talk about the concept of niching down as an artist. This is the best way I like to think of it. Niching down too early is like addressing the packaging of your artwork before you know what goes inside the packaging. Like, you have this really pretty box, right? You can brand it and market it and the box is so pretty, but then you open it and nothing's inside. Or you open it and you're like, geez, I have to make this every day for the rest of my life? I don't think so. When I was first starting to really get into my art business and talk about myself, regard myself as a professional artist, I heard one piece of advice over and over and over, and that was niche down and niche down early. The target audience is a huge buzzword, right? It's all about getting to know them and what's important to them and how to reach them. This whole concept of focusing on them as an artist is really, really damaging, especially in the very beginning. And so this video is going to be 3 signs you should not niche down yet, and 1 sign that you're ready to niche down. See, the problem with rushing to niche down, it causes you to neglect the very real and necessary part of your artistic process, which is self-discovery, wild experimentation, and play. In this day and age, in order to be an artist, you have to have a very strong core identity of who you are, why you make the work that you make. For now, I wanted to introduce myself. Hello, my name is Jen Carmiel. I am a watercolor artist and painter. I paint the small joys in life to remind you that joy does not have to be big to be impactful. Is this too meta for me to mention my niche in a video about not niching down? You'll get it. I trust you to get it. Because after all, this video is about not niching down yet. You can collect original paintings and prints in my online shop. International shipping is available. You'll just have to email me which prints that you'd like, and then I'll quote you for your international shipping. I'd also like to invite you to join the Small Joys Club because you seem like a cool person who would probably like that kind of thing. When you join the Small Joys Club, you will receive a letter and an art print from me every month to help you celebrate those small joys. And if you want to support me in a completely free capacity, I have my email newsletter where I share all kinds of stuff that I'm up to, and it would be so much fun for you to join. I also reveal Tazo's shame each month, which is one naughty thing my cat Tazo did. So if you're interested in that, link in the description. So the first sign that you should not niche down yet is that you have a lot of ideas and a lot of passion about those ideas. About a year ago, when I first quit my 9-to-5 to start doing artwork, I had an indescribable number of ideas. See, the thing about being an artist is a lot of times you learn to develop a skill, right? You learn to represent the world with these materials, with paint, but you don't yet know how using this skill relates to you and relates to others, because art is a conversation between you and your audience. What conversation do you want to have? That's the question you answer when you are discovering your niche. If you are still having a lot of flighty ideas, a lot of passion and interest in those ideas, then that means you are still in the exploration process and you should not niche down yet. A lot of times this looks like a bullet pointed list without much depth or vision for each item in that list. You're sitting there saying, what if I did this? What if I did this other thing? What if I did that thing? What if I did this thing? And a lot of times the items on that bullet point are very unrelated to each other. In other words, you don't know what you're interested in yet. Why would you niche down if you don't understand your own interests yet? And so if you are having all these ideas, it is very important to explore them, to not pressure yourself to say, okay, I'll choose one item on my bullet point and go all in on it. No, don't do that yet. You are an artist, and an artist is meant to explore. Do it all, like pick random things on your list and just do them. Don't pressure yourself to market yourself yet. Just make your artwork and, show up with your artwork. Really notice within yourself what feels good to you to make. The second sign, and this is a huge one, that tells you you are not ready to niche down yet, is that you feel sorrow about letting go of one or more of your creative ideas. When you niche down, and you are choosing something and you feel in yourself that, oh, I wish I could still be doing this other thing, or oh, I would rather do this, like it feels inauthentic to start marketing yourself and your brand as insert niche or insert marketing material, that is a sign to you that you have not fully explored yet. And it's time for you to explore. Maybe there's some way that you can combine these different things that you want to do, right? When I was first starting to niche down, I felt sorrow about letting go of figure painting, because for so many years of my life, I was a figure painter and that was only what I did. And then I started doing these still lives, and the still lives and these watercolors are what seemed to get a lot of attention from different art markets and ways that I would exhibit my work. And so I said, hey, this is what seems to sell, so this is what I'll start to niche down with. And I felt this sorrow about letting go of figure painting because it was so important to me at the time. And that was a sign to me I was not ready to commit to this yet. I had to continue to explore. And in continuing to explore with my watercolor, I incorporated figures into my watercolors at first, because at least this is a way that I'm holding on to it in a way. But really what further exploration of my art practice showed me is that in my figure painting and in these oil paintings that I used to do, it was kind of performative for me, at least. It's sort of like you have to psychologically discover yourself in order to move past the sorrow that you feel about letting go of certain pieces. There was a lot of growth and mindset work that I had to do. It's very much like dating too. Like, you wouldn't immediately marry the first person that you see, right? In the same way, you shouldn't immediately choose and niche down with one random part of your art practice, right? Instead, you should date across your art practice. You should date your figure painting and date your watercolors and date your oil painting and date your still lives and date whatever you want to do creatively. And whichever one gives you the best feeling of joy that you can also validate with your market, there is where you choose your niche. If you'd like another video about how exactly to choose your niche, comment niche below and I will, work on a little video about that. And so this sign of feeling sorrow about letting go of your creative ideas means you're not ready to break up with them yet. It means you still need to experiment. There's something to be gleaned still from that section of your art practice. And maybe there's a way to marry the two of those ideas, like how I incorporated figures into my watercolors at first. That was sort of a middle ground I was able to work with still. Take very seriously the feelings that you have as an artist while you're practicing, because that's going to be paramount to your success long term. You might be able to niche down for a couple months, but it's not going to work out if you don't allow yourself the freedom to experiment now when it matters most. The third sign you're not ready to niche down yet is that you love creating, but you don't know what you want to do. I remember about a year ago when I was still kind of trying to discover my niche, I'd make a lot of figure paintings and portraits and still lives and all these different kinds of things with all these different kinds of mediums. And I remember I would admire other people's artwork and say, oh, I want to make something like that because I like it, because I visually like it. But when I would try to create it, it did not spark joy, as Marie Kondo says. Is that her name, Marie Kondo? It's hard for me to discover that for myself. And I remember at first I'd be like, maybe I'll do black and white, maybe I'll do something classy and bold. And I had all these ideas that were very different from one another because I didn't know what I liked to do. When I started to really just go all in on anything that mattered to me when it came to artwork, that's when I really started to discover I love watercolor. I love the relaxing nature of watercolor. I also liked the aspect of observation and just painting something pretty. I like to have artwork that made me look up at my wall and be like, oh my gosh, I love where I live because it's so beautiful. And without allowing myself to experiment that way, I would never know, I would never in my life imagine I love painting watercolors. If you told Jennifer 2 years ago, you'll be painting watercolor still lives for a living, I'd be like, no, I won't. Because I was so into all this figure painting stuff. But for me, the figure painting stuff was very performative and a way to prove myself as a serious artist. And this is honestly the epitome of my joy. So if you haven't found that thing that sparks joy inside you where you could be I could study this forever and not get bored of it, then you likely still need to do a little bit more exploring. both physically with the paint and with yourself. Like you gotta get to know yourself. You gotta get to know the voice you talk to in your head, because that voice is going to be the voice of conversation between you, the artist, and your audience. Here's one sign that you should niche down. You're starting to get a strong audience response for one of your art styles, and it feels right to you to pursue. You no longer feel like you're neglecting another one of your creative babies, and in fact, you feel like you're starting to finally nurture a child. It starts to feel like things are aligning around you, and you're like, oh, this makes sense. Like, this makes sense for me. If you look back to your life and think about the things that were important to you as you were a child and now, does your current art style make sense? Because your art is going to be intertwined with you as a person. When you talk about your artwork, you're gonna say, how did I get here? Why do I do what I do? And a lot of times that origin story is going to go way back to childhood, even if you don't know it yet. When I was painting watercolors and all these florals all the time, it kept bringing up this memory for me of when I was 5 years old in my grandfather's house. He had this rose garden in front of his house, and my favorite thing as a kid would be when he would invite us over to pick out a rose from his rose garden. And I took my job so seriously. I'm telling you, so serious about it. I would walk through the rose garden, and I was a kid, I was 5 years old, so the roses were about a foot or two above my head, and I would walk around, and they were all different colors. They were red and pink and violet, even white and yellow. There were so many different colors, and I would pick out my favorite rose, and he would cut it from the bush and cut the stems off and send it home with me. And that is my earliest happy memory. And when I create these artwork pieces, that reminds me of not only the small joys that exist around you today, but of my personal earliest happy memory. And if I was still doing figure paintings like I thought that would be me like 2 years ago, I would not be so connected with myself as I am today. That's the reason for art, right? Art is a true form of connection. So how does your art connect you with your audience? What conversations are you having with them? What memories do you bring up for them? And when you finally do niche down, this will be something that you can study forever and not get bored of it. And in order to get to that forever, you have to take some time in the beginning to really explore all your options, explore yourself. When I was first starting out as an artist, I felt so much pressure, like in the first couple months, to just pick something and stick with it. Whenever I pulled up a YouTube video and I was like, how do I be an artist? Every single video would tell me, pick something, stick with it. Keep all of your art in the back closet and only show one thing to your audience for a long period of time. That was all the advice I would get. And that could not be more detrimental to your growth as an artist, to the reason you're doing this in the first place. A lot of times creative people are in this business to find purpose and fulfillment and to find audiences who care about the same things as them. And that's not gonna happen if you just pick something at random and say, hey, do you guys like this? Do you guys care about this? That's not how this works. You have to find the care within yourself. You have to find the meaning yourself and to wholeheartedly believe and embody that meaning, and people will see and be attracted to what you already know to be true. The concept of niching down and finding your target audience is putting way too much emphasis on them as an audience when the audience comes to the person. Like, you have to figure it out. You have to experiment and explore and really understand this yourself before you find your audience. Did you find this helpful? Would you like to be friends? If so, hit the subscribe, hit the like. You and me, we're in this together. We're just some messy creatives living our best lives. Am I right? As always, spending any amount of time here on this channel with me is a gift. I really, really do consider it a gift. And for that, this humble artist says thank you. I think that you all should see this. My cat Tazo is being an absolute beautiful kitty cat. Hi. He gives no fucks. I don't know.